Hi everyone, it's Sarah Todd. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I have been going through a lot medically lately. I've been having a lot of medical challenges and I've had to get tons of tests done, been to tons of doctor appointments, and it's really been impacting my life the past few months. I've had to confront a lot of past medical traumas, which has actually been really good for me. I feel like I've grown a lot from that. Y'all always seem to really like when I talk about medical trauma and medical challenges on my channel, so I figured a long form video update was due because I have a lot to share. So let's get right on into it. So for those of you who may not know, I have a spinal cord injury from C2 to T1. This happened when I was 8 years old in 2010. I am now 23, and it originally left me paralyzed from the neck down, but I regained the ability to walk and I now have partial paralysis in my arms and hands. I've shared my full story in many videos on my channel and I will link those to this video, but that's the brief background. Now getting back to the present day. So basically since mid-April, I have been having some swelling in my right calf, and I thought that maybe I just pulled a muscle or something because I was walking every day and doing very hilly walks to try to get some exercise in. And my right leg was kind of hurting a little bit on these walks. So I was like, okay, maybe I just overdid it. Maybe I pulled a muscle. But unfortunately, the swelling wasn't going away. The pain wasn't going away. I had my doctor look at it because I was concerned I might have a blood clot. He sent me to an orthopedist because he didn't think that I had a blood clot. He thought that maybe I was experiencing some nerve pain coming from the scoliosis that I have in my lower back. So I went to the orthopedist. He also didn't think I had a blood clot, and he ordered an MRI of my lumbar spine to check in on the nerves there. Meanwhile, I decided to just text a medical professional that I am friends with and I've known for a long time to ask her opinion. And she was like, just get a Doppler ultrasound. It's very easy to do. And just do that just to see if there's a blood clot. So I got my doctor to order that for me, got it done on July 3rd. So by this point, I had had this problem with my leg for a few months and found out on July 7th that I had a superficial vein thrombosis in my right calf. So it was a blood clot, but it thankfully wasn't in a deep vein. So it was a lot less dangerous than one that would be in a deep vein. But upon finding this out, I was just super stressed because I didn't really know how dangerous it was at this point. So I was really worried and developed a ton of anxiety and didn't sleep well for 2 days following finding out this news. I made an appointment with a cardiologist and he put me on blood thinners. So I did experience some mental relief upon getting on the blood thinners, but then he referred me to a hematologist who was super helpful, and we'll get into that later. But anyway, so I found out on July 7th that I had this blood clot and was really, really nervous, super anxious. Then on July 9th, I woke up with a pounding headache in the back of my head, excruciating headache. But when I got up and went about my day, it improved. So I didn't really think too much of it. Then that afternoon, I started experiencing visual disturbances. When I would blink, I would see my veins. It looked like there was a smudge on my phone. My vision was blurry. I was seeing flashing lights. I was seeing little black dots moving around in my vision. And I thought I just had a migraine. Even though I've never had a migraine before in my life, I thought, okay, I probably just have a migraine. It should go away. But a few days later, it still hadn't gone away. And I was texting one of my friends who gets migraines a lot. And she was like, at that point, I would go to the emergency room. And I was like, oh my gosh. I did not want to go, but I knew she was correct. So I went to the ER and told them what was happening because I was then at that point concerned that the blood clot in my leg could have something to do with the headache I was experiencing, which ended up not being the case, thankfully. But I went, they gave me an IV cocktail full of medicine and fluids, and I was very proud of myself for going through the IV because I have, as I've briefly touched on in videos here before, a lot of medical trauma related to getting different procedures and tests done, and I don't always have the best luck with IVs, but my nurse was fantastic. She got that IV in super quick, super easy. It was painless. So I got that IV cocktail. They did a CT scan, which was super easy. I'd never had one done before, but I had had 4-hour-long MRIs done before. So a CT scan was a breeze for me. Got that done. Everything was normal on the CT scan. They also ran some blood tests. Everything was normal on the blood tests, and the IV cocktail helped me feel a little bit better. So they were like, if you feel better, you can go home. And they told me that migraines could last up to a week. And by this point I was on day 5. So they were like, if it comes back or just doesn't fully go away, just come back. So I was like, okay. So I went home. I was really proud of myself for having gone to the ER, having checked in on things. And then by that evening, the visual disturbances and the headache had returned. So I made an appointment with a neurologist and got in to see them. They told me to go to the eye doctor and get a dilated eye exam ASAP, and they ordered 2 brain MRIs for me. So I went and got the eye exam done, which I had done before, and it wasn't a big deal to get done, but they did see some swelling in my optic nerve on the eye exam. So that was alarming to me, obviously, but I was really glad that I went because they found something. So did that eye exam, and then the next day, I got both my brain MRIs done. I have not been a fan of MRIs ever since I was a child because I had so many of them done when I was little, when everything first happened to me, and they were terrifying for me because I was just put into the MRI tube. I wasn't really told like what was happening, why I was in there, and when you have the brain MRIs done, they put like that box around your head, and that freaked me out as a child. So I was really nervous about getting those MRIs done, but I went to the facility. They were so nice. I had a great MRI tech. I wanted to make sure that I would be able to press the help button that they give you in case you need something while you're in the MRI. So I asked the tech if I could try that out before going into the tube, which she was kind enough to let me do. And I found that I wasn't able to squeeze the button because I don't have enough hand strength to do that. So I told her that I'd be able to squeeze it like with my legs. So what she did was she actually taped the button to my legs so that it wouldn't move away, and I could squeeze it with my legs if I needed anything. And thank goodness she did, because when I had 4 minutes left in the MRI, I had to squeeze the button because I had to go to the bathroom. And she told me I only had 4 minutes left. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna push through. Made it through the MRI, thankfully, without having to get out and go back in. And she put on music for me to listen to throughout the whole thing. So that helped a ton, and it was honestly a pretty good experience. Obviously not something I would be excited to do again, but wasn't as bad as I remembered it being as a child. So did those MRIs, those came back normal. And then meanwhile, as I'm figuring out all of these things with my vision and my headaches, I'm trying to figure out the blood clot at the same time. So I go to Hematology. They're fantastic. She looks at my leg. She's like, it's definitely swollen. She agrees that I should be taking the blood thinners. They order a ton of blood work to be done, which I have a lot of medical trauma related to blood work because I had it done so many times when I was a child. And one of those times when I was 9 years old, I was super nervous and moving around a lot and crying, and they didn't tell me to try to be as still as possible. So because I was moving around a lot, the needle like fell out of my arm while they were drawing the blood, and my blood sprayed everywhere. It got all over my dress. It was horrible. So that experience kind of scarred me for a long time, and I was really nervous to get my blood work done because of that. But at the hematologist, they were fantastic with the blood work. They let me eat a snack and drink some water before, and they were super quick. It was really easy. So I got that blood work done, and then I actually had to get more blood work done 2 weeks later, and I wasn't even that nervous that time because I'd had such a good experience the 2 weeks prior. All of that blood work came back normal, so that was reassuring, but it didn't really provide answers as to why I had this blood clot. I ended up having another ultrasound a little over a month after the first one to check on the clot, see if it was still there, what was going on with it. The ultrasound showed that it had completely disappeared. So it took about a month of me being on blood thinners for my blood clot to disappear. So I was really happy about that, obviously, because my leg was feeling much better. It is still a little bit swollen, which the hematologist thinks will probably gradually go away. But I'm going to keep taking the blood thinners for the next 3 months because she doesn't want me to reclot. So that's the plan with the blood clot as of now. So I'm feeling pretty good about that because I'm like, okay, one issue has pretty much resolved. But with my visual disturbances and my headaches, we still don't really know what's causing that. So unfortunately, my neurologist had to order a lumbar puncture for me to assess the opening pressure of my cerebrospinal fluid. And I really was not interested in having this done because I had had one done when I was 8 years old, when everything first happened to me. And it wasn't a big deal back then because I was going through so much and it was just like, something I had to do back then. But I had heard so many scary stories about lumbar punctures and the spinal headache that you can get afterwards. And I really was scared to get this done, but I knew I needed it done. So I had the lumbar puncture done 6 days ago, last week, and it actually was not a super horrendous experience, but it was very scary. So I think I had kind of downplayed what it was going to be like. I didn't think that it was going to be some big deal, but it definitely was. So I go in with my mom and I check in, I get called back, I've changed into the gown and everything. And then they come in and they say they need to put in an IV and take some blood. And I was just not expecting that because I did not think that was part of the lumbar puncture procedure at all. But they explained to me that they need to put the IV in to give me some fluids since they will be taking cerebrospinal fluid from my body, and that they needed to draw some blood to compare the blood sample to the cerebrospinal fluid sample. So once that was explained to me, it made sense. I just kind of had wished I'd had a little bit of a heads up, but they were great at getting the IV in. That was not a problem. However, when they were taking the blood through the IV, which obviously doesn't hurt or anything, I just started to feel really weird. And I guess it was because it was morning, so I hadn't had anything to eat. So they start taking the blood and I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel really weird. And they're like, okay, lay back, lay back. So I lay back in the chair a little bit and they had me sniff some alcohol pads. And that really helped. So thankfully I didn't pass out or anything, but they did that and got that done. And then I had asked if I could have just something to kind of calm me down a little bit during the procedure because I was so nervous. So they gave me a mild sedative and it was so great because it just helped me like be a little calm and not freak out. And it actually gave me a little bit of interrograde amnesia because I definitely don't remember the entire procedure or like everything that happened immediately after, which is a little bit weird, but I think that's a good thing. But anyway, they take me back for the procedure. I'm very calm by this point, thankfully. They did have me go on my stomach, which I was expecting to be on my side. So going on my stomach was really difficult for me because I have a spinal fusion. So I usually don't sleep on my stomach or anything like that, but I was able to get onto my stomach for the procedure. I did feel them put the numbing needle in, but it didn't hurt that bad. It was just like a burn and sting. So that was fine with me. I'm not scared of needles. I am scared of like things going wrong during procedures. So the needle didn't bother me. Then they end up finding the spot to get the cerebrospinal fluid out. I did feel like a sharp pain go down my leg at one point, but I'd heard that that could happen. So it didn't really alarm me or anything. There was one pain that I felt during it and I said ow out loud, but it didn't last very long. Then one of the most difficult parts was they had to like tilt the table up almost like 180 degrees to get the fluid to drain out. And they were like, don't worry, we won't let you fall. But I felt like I was like slipping down the table. So that was a little bit scary. But anyway, then they did the procedure. It went well. My results from that were normal. So that's great. Doesn't provide any answers as to why I'm having these headaches yet, but great that everything was normal. I lied down for like an hour and a half to 2 hours after the procedure before they discharged me. Sat up on the way home in the car because they told me not to lie back. And when I got home, I immediately lied down and made sure that I was as flat as possible. But of course, I developed the dreaded spinal headache afterwards. So this headache happens because you have low pressure because they drained cerebrospinal fluid from your body. So whenever I would sit up or stand up, I had the worst headache ever. Like it's literally indescribable pain. Honestly, it was that bad. But when I would lie down, it would go away. So that is like a classic spinal headache. So I tried my best to drink a ton of water, to drink a ton of caffeine because caffeine can help with those headaches, and to just lie as flat as possible. And I had a telehealth with my neuro 2 days after the lumbar puncture. She told me to call the hospital where I had the lumbar puncture done and tell them what was happening and see about getting a blood patch to repair the leak. So I called them and I actually talked to the person who did my procedure, and she told me that these headaches can last for a few days after the procedure and that a blood patch was not going to be done that day. She told me I could go to the emergency room and get some IV medicine to help me feel better, but I decided not to do that because I was like, there's no way I can sit up in the car and the ER waiting room to get that done. So I treated it at home, and thankfully 2 days ago it started to get a bit better. And then yesterday I was able to leave the house, go out for lunch, have a pretty normal day. I did still lie down a lot because it was hurting, but now today is like the first day I've been able to have a normal day. Like I have maybe the slightest, tiniest bit of a headache right now, but barely there. I feel pretty much normal and I feel up to filming videos and everything. So thankfully it wasn't a leak. It was just a post-spinal tap headache. So I'm very happy that that's resolved. But anyway, all of that being said, I've gone through all these tests, all these doctor appointments, and we're still trying to figure out what's causing my visual disturbances and the headaches that I was originally having, which were the opposite of the spinal headache. It was worse when I was lying down and better when I was upright. So I still have the visual disturbances. I'm still seeing flashing lights, all these things. So I'm gonna try to figure that out because I had started taking acetazolamide, which is supposed to help like lower the pressure in your head, but I had a normal opening pressure as found by my lumbar puncture. So the next step might be to just treat this as like a normal migraine, which is what my neurologist said. So I'm following up with them this week. So see what they say. And I'm also getting another eye exam done this week to see if maybe the optic nerve swelling has improved. I kind of doubt it because I'm still having these visual disturbances. But yeah, I'm so proud that I've like made it through all of these tests. I feel like I've had like every test done under the sun lately, and it has been a lot. It's been very stressful. I feel like all I do is go to the doctor and sit in waiting rooms, to be honest. But I'm very proud of myself for getting through all of these tests and confronting that medical trauma head on, because I actually feel like it's been so good for me because now I have like an updated perspective on all of these tests and procedures compared to my 8-year-old self's perspective. It's a lot more helpful to have the young adult perspective on these procedures and tests because I feel like it's less scary now. And so if I need something done like a blood test, yeah, I'm not going to be like excited to do it and I'll be maybe a little bit nervous, but I know that I can do it. And I'll always be scared of things going wrong because that is definitely my fear with medical things. But I feel like at least now I know that I can do it and have like a bit more of a normal, less like super anxious feeling about these tests. So yeah, I just wanted to share with y'all what has been going on because it's been a lot and it's definitely been impacting my life and it's been really difficult, but I'm hoping things will start looking up from here now that I've had a lot of these tests done. Maybe we can start figuring things out. My blood clot's gone, so that's great. Like taking the blood thinners is really easy. There's no side effects I experience from those, so that's fine. But yeah, just wanted to share with y'all and share how I've been confronting that medical trauma and how it's actually been really good for me. So thank you all so much for your support of me always. I feel like I have a really fantastic community here on YouTube and y'all are just the sweetest. So I appreciate your kind words and your comments on every video I post. Thank you so much for taking the time to support me and my channel and watch this video. And I hope you all are doing well and that you have a lovely day. Bye everyone.